So, hello, hello. This is a beautiful, crazy hot summer's day here in London today, and I am sitting down with the one, the only, the gorgeous Francesca Oddie, who I am super excited to have here with us today. From everything that I know about Francesca, she's not just an astrologist, but she is an in-depth, wonderful human being who really just want to help others live their most potent, gorgeous life. So welcome to the studio here, Francesca.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Francesca. So I want to start out with the beginning. Where are you from? Where did it all start?
I'm from Nottingham, the world's best city, and it began here. It began here when I was really little. The astrology journey, yeah? That's
Uh-huh.
where yeah.
Oh, wow. It started there. Okay, so what kind of family system were you born into? Were you one of many? Were you an only child?
I was the first-born cousin, like my niece. We were talking about that this morning, actually. So, like, I was everybody's baby. I was the first. I made everybody an aunt. I made everybody an uncle. I made my parents parents. I made my grandparents grandparents. All of them. And I think it's quite a thing, you know. I was
Yeah.
I birthed a new generation.
Oh my God, I love it. And where are you? So obviously I looked at your name, Francesca, right? So I was there going, is she half Italian? Are you fully Italian? What's going on?
Zero Italian in this life.
I love that. So are both your parents from England or?
Mum's half Irish, so I'm Irish now as well. I became Irish last year. Like I had to do that. Like I had to say I was an Irish citizen and then get the passport. Um, yeah, they were going to call me Felicity, and then when I was born, they were like, nah, and then they called me Francesca, and that's it. And then I went to live in Italy, and I speak Italian, and I can fully pretend to be Italian, but I'm not.
Oh
So all
my
the
God.
Italians are like, "Ma, come on, mai." Like, why are you called Francesca and you like look like this and speak like this? So what is it? Don't know.
Oh my God, I love it. That's so interesting. And my head is just doing an upside down flipping thing because I'm like, oh, she's so different. That's so cool. I love it. Okay, amazing. So you were born and raised in Nottingham that you have now returned to, and you just got your Irish passport last summer or something like that. So again, going back to the roots and going back to the roots. Very exciting. So let's just dive straight into the astrology part then. So you said it started in Nottingham.
Yes, because I was about 5 or 6, and Mum was getting me dressed for school, and I saw this ornament that had my name, my weight, birth time, all the stuff, like a baby gift. And it said Sagittarius on it. And I was like, what's that? And Mum was like, oh, it's just this silly thing with the stars. And I remember this like out of body experience. And I went like into like a wormhole with stars all around me. And then Mum went downstairs, and I remember going downstairs a few minutes later, being like, "I'm gonna know more about that Sagittarius thing when I'm older." Like, and obviously I was so small, but it was a really strong memory because I went into this wormhole. It was like everything was black and starry and really strange. So ever since I was 5, every time I saw something about astrology, I'd always be like, "Oh yeah, that's my thing," and I'd always pay attention to it every time it came on Mystic Meg on the lottery, or I was always like, "Yeah, that's my thing."
Amazing. But I'm sure from having that sort of moment of epiphany, awakening, remembering, whatever we want to call it at the ripe age of 5, which I love, I'm sure that there were many twists and turns in your coming into being from teenager into woman, etc., before you at some point went, hey, you know what? That's my thing. It might be really the time, not just the thing, but the time now. So talk us through that a little bit. Yeah, yeah, the door.
That's the synchronicity. Whenever it opened, I don't know what was being said, but
Mhm.
um, when I was 29 at my Saturn return. So Saturn return is quite a famous astrological thing. Like your birthday is your solar return. So every year you say many happy returns. Saturn takes 29 and a half years to do an orbit of the sun. And when he comes back around, he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was at a networking event, and I met a psychic, and we were chatting, and then I said, "Oh, go on then, like read me." I'd never had been for a psychic reading before. I was like one glass of wine in, really hormonal, really tired, just chatting to this random girl. And then she blew me away. She blew my mind. She knew the name of my best friend, like my boyfriend's sister, this bloody door. She knew everything. And so, and then in the end, we went to get our coats together, and I said, "Were you born? When's your birthday?" And she told me. I said, "Were you born at 8 p.m.?" And she was like, "Yeah. Why do you know that?" Like, I'm in tears, having my mind blown by a psychic, claiming to be like, "Oh, I'm not into psychic stuff," but yet I told the psychic what time she was born. And because I already was into astrology and had a pattern recognition for certain types. And she was like, "That's it. You've been an astrologer in all your past lives. You're going to do it in this life." And I was like, "Nah, I'm too normal." And she was like, "No, you're not." And so I spoke to my friends. I spoke about it all the time, like when you're really going on to your friends about something. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, I don't know." I was like, "It's too weird, isn't it? I can't do that. Oh my God, where am I going to do it? How are you going to do it? What? I just want to be normal. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be like that." And my friend Nick, actually, who the psychic had spoken about, he was like, "Well, you do love astrology, and there's no harm in just going to study it, is there? You might enjoy it." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And that was
Okay, I love the express version. Before we dive deeper into this, which I'm super excited about, I just want to share with you that, and also with listeners, because you obviously can't see us unless you're on the YouTube later, Francesca's door keeps opening. What's really hilarious is that my door keeps opening too. In my door, I have these two super heavy glass metal doors that have never opened up in the 1 year I've lived in this apartment, and they keep opening. So there's something about doors that obviously are supposed to be open during our podcast today. So I just want to share that, because this is, every little thing counts and has value and purpose. And it's very often in the most mundane moments that deep spiritual truths can, are happening if we are open for it. So the same thing, the openness, the door is opening. And in that moment of being 29, even though since you were 5 years old, you'd known that's my thing. Astrology is my thing. It took many years and perhaps that one moment and perhaps so many experiences in your life to finally lead you to a point where you were open to hearing, hey.
desperate enough to hear it, actually.
Right.
I was too stupid. I would say that the universe literally had to send me a verbal message, because that's how dense I was being. Like I was passionate about astrology, absolutely obsessed from 2008, and it was 2014 that they sent me a verbal message at my Saturn return, because it was just density. I didn't know astrology was a career.
Right, but that's it. And I also think, so from where I sit, I don't think you were dense. I just think that everything, you're mature when you're ready to mature. An avocado isn't ripe until it's ripe. I know it's like, sorry for comparing you to an avocado, but like to simplify everything,
Like an avocado, unless they suddenly change, and then like an avocado doesn't.
Yeah, right. It's like too late. Done, gone. Okay. So now, okay, my love. So finally at the age of 29, you're like, okay, your friend Nick is like, hey, you love this thing anyway. What's the worst that can happen? You're gonna study and know even more about the stuff you already love, right? So then how did you go about that? So where did you study, or did you just start self-studying even more? What happened?
No, because I had already been self-studying, but I needed help for sure. So I emailed Shelley von Strunkel, who used to write horoscopes in the Sunday Times magazine, because she was the only astrologer I knew. So I emailed Shelley and been like, "Hi, I met a psychic last week. I'm going to be an astrologer. What do I do?"
Oh my God, I love it. Oh my God. And you know what? Okay, this is such a spicy moment, because again, it can seem really like kind of blasé, but you know what? Like the only thing we need to do is do something. We need to take a action. It's the thing I say to myself and everyone else over and over and over again. Like, we start by starting, and it does not matter whether you decide to email the Sunday news astrologist, or whether you decide to go on an in-depth 5-year course, or whatever you do, like, as long as there's a little part of you that's like, again, open to like, let's try this out. So, okay. So anyway, you did that. Then what?
I mean, like, it didn't even occur to me to Google astrology courses because I didn't know they existed. You don't know what you don't know. Anyway, her PA replied to me and said you should speak to Frank at the London School of Astrology. So then I emailed Frank being like, "Hi, Frank. I emailed Shelley about psychic." I always think about that and think he must think what he thought. Because he's so experienced, like, to me, this is his big moment. And he's just like, "All right, we've got one here," But that's what I did. And then I think I enrolled, the course started end of October 2014. And that's it, 3-year course.
2014, but also we have to remember that in 2014, not only were you a different person, but the world was a very different landscape, right? And so
It wasn't cool. Astrology wasn't cool then. The trend landed 2016. It was not a thing. Astrology was still only for freaks.
Right. No, no, yeah. No, no, I can totally relate. I love that. And it's kind of similar to me and, teaching yoga and all of that, which by the way, let's not go into my journey, but I just want to give you a little heads up. I had my epiphany moment when I was 9. So I was in a yoga class, my first one when I was 9, and yoga was not trendy. Yoga was kind of like a cult. I had to lie to get into the class because everyone was like, "Aren't you a little?" And I was like, "I'm tall." Anyway, and I had a similar moment of like, this is me.
Mm.
And then I just kept thinking, yeah, that's me. But then so personally, I had this whole story about like, in order to do something like that, you must like ideally like live by yourself for 5 years, be able to levitate, not speak to anyone, eat nothing but air. Like I had this very set mindset that this is a yogi, and also later on when I started doing healing, I was like, I must be able to speak to ghosts. I had so many preconceived ideas about what one must be able to do in order to be able to hold space for others, basically. But let's go back to you. So you're emailing Mr. Frank. Frank is like, yeah, that's a thing. And then you.
And also, I was called Frank at that point, so I also signed off from Frank, which was hilarious. So I was like to Frank from Frank.
And I just want to tell you this. I knew this. So when you were saying this, when you were just telling me the story, I was sitting here going, "Oh, how hilarious with the Frank and the Frank," and I have no idea how I knew it. It came to me straight away. So I just want to share that with you. Okay, continue. So then what happened? You are emailing Frank from Frank.
And then I just I loved it. I sat there, like made friends with Kelly on the first date. We both had a Taurus moon, and then I saw that I had like 5,000 things in Capricorn. And I just used to come back from class every week, like burst home. I lived with this lovely Italian guy who would always be like, God, you're so happy when you've been there, like fireworks every week. Loved it. And I just, I was 29, 30, all my friends are getting married, having babies, and I'm starting a new thing. And I was just typical mature student that I just went all in. I read every book. I went to every extra class. I did what you should do as a student. I was a brilliant student. I was utterly committed. And I'd already started blogging actually as soon as I met the psychic, because that was February 2014. And I didn't start till October. But I was like, I want to start a blog of all the things I already know that are just self-taught and experiential, like stuff that I've noticed, because and it was only for me because I just didn't want to forget my knowings before I got influenced by education. And so I was already, and I just like building the muscle, So yeah, I did that. I just didn't stop. I was on 3 courses the whole time from 2014 to 2021, 7 years, yeah. 3 courses the whole time because I did
Wow.
all the stuff. Like I don't, College of Psychic Studies courses, crystal course, past life healing course, angel energy therapy course, Reiki, tarot, all of it. Palmistry, medical astrology, workshops. But yeah, nonstop. 7 years.
Okay, I mean, and then the whole 7-year cycle, which is also really interesting. This is just so beautiful, but it's also like it's so interesting that you had that epiphany moment at 5 years old. So you're obviously super in touch with your intuition ever since you were little, and then you have this whole sort of 24-year cycle where I know you haven't shared with us, or maybe it was less. You said 29 when the Saturn return thing, so I was doing the math. 23 years maybe.
I like the numbers. When you say numbers, I'm just like, okay, fine. I'm thinking of Uranus. I was just thinking of all the transits it could be, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so since the moment you were born, you were super in tune with your intuition. You had definitely that moment, and I believe that we all are when we're born. We are actually super in tune. And then I can see you want to say something there.
I want to know your birthday.
Oh, you want to hear my birthday? Okay, listeners, let's pause for a moment. So basically, my birthday is the 12th of the 12th, 85.
Oh, really?
You okay, Francesca?
Yeah, but that's it. So I think another great, amazing thing. So when it got to the end of 2022, I was like, there's something I don't know. There's something missing. Oh, astrology, I know numerology. blah, blah. I know what I know and it works, but there's a bit missing. I know there's something that I don't know yet. And in 50 years or in 20 years, I'm gonna know it because this is always how as I felt as a teenager. I knew there was something, even when it came to picking my career, I was very Capricorn, 4 planets in Capricorn, eldest child, blah blah. I was very like academic, but it took me a long time to find astrology, and I was like, there's something, and it's playing cards. I found a playing card on the floor on the 10th of or the 11th of March 2023, and I'd already bought all these books on playing cards because I'd always loved playing cards. I love numbers, and I read playing cards, and it's like a deeply esoteric thing that's very attached to astrology. So I'm the Queen of Clubs, which is the mother of intuition. So one of the most intuitive cards in the deck. So when you keep saying about me being an intuitive child, I'm like, yeah, I'm Queen of Clubs, yeah. And then I was like, but what are you to be recognizing this? And you're the 6 of Clubs, I believe, and which is yeah, a good card. The guy who wrote all the books I read, your card is his favorite card, actually.
Oh, so 6 of clubs.
6 of Clubs, because you have the King of Spades, which is like top dog, in the Saturn position. So like, and the King of Spades is, yeah, the big spiritual healer dude. Saturn. So I presume you've got some kind of strong Saturn situation going on as well.
My Saturn is in Sagittarius.
Oh, is it very early though?
Mm.
30 degrees of Sag.
I'm pretty sure. Now I need to like double check my own horoscope after this. I'm pretty sure it is.
I think it might be Scorpio.
Yeah, could be.
Anyway.
Absolutely could be. Anyway, you and I will have a chat about this later, and I'm excited. So thank you. Oh, sorry. Now my brain's like, let me think. Is it? Anyway, we'll sort this one out later. What I want to dive into, because this is like really the huge deal. So that whole thing of like, you have that epiphany at 5. Now, what happens? Because obviously you've got that strong intuition, but then as you're mentioning, you've got lots of houses that are in Capricorn, which makes you naturally drawn towards very in-depth study, right? And also, I guess, maybe a more sort of methodical, more sort of traditional way of life, and a bit more sort of, it's an earth sign, right? So you're a bit more like, kind of like, this is how it was done. And so even that whole intuition is there kind of like talking to you in the background, because I really want listeners to understand that, hey, if you're out there going, since you were a kid or in glimpses in your life, you've had those moments of like, hey, this is me, like the way that you, Francesca, was like, astrology is my thing and I just know it. I know it like I know it like I know it, even though it doesn't make sense to anyone else. So where in life, where were you flowing? What were you doing in your life during that sort of 23/24-year-old period before your Saturn return at 29? Like what kind of study did you go into? Were you traveling? Like how was life for Francesca when you were, let's say, 18? What were you doing?
Loved it. I loved school. I loved school. I loved learning. And I went to uni at 18 and read natural sciences, biology, philosophy with a theology elective. And in the first year, I also did chemistry. I loved science, and I'm good at science. I'm not actually that good at writing and punctuation and spelling shit. I mean, I am, but I was much better at science. So, but I loved the philosophy. I loved the meaning. I loved the heart. I loved the feeling. I loved the inspiration. I loved the context of life, and the theology. And I loved RE A level at school. We loved it. We're all still really good. Like I've just got back from Ibiza yesterday, and I think 3 of us did A level RE that were there. And yeah, so we were always very into it. And I went off to uni, loved it. / there was always a bit of me like, am I going to do medicine? Because I was good at science. So like, of course you can do medicine. But I was squeamish and I'm non-committal. So I could not commit to that working nights. I'd be like, fuck off. No, not happening. So I didn't do it. But it was always like, maybe I will. Maybe I'll grow up a bit and realize I'm going to be a doctor. It was always like, I'm clearly that way inclined, but also over my dead body, am I going to work in a hospital? It was just, and I think that's how I will do the homeopathy. I am trained in medical astrology. That is where I will go. I need to do homeopathy as soon as possible because of the AI. I think it's really important to be doing the stuff that cannot be robotic, because astrology can be robots, really.
Oh my God, I just love this. I keep seeing, like I keep seeing you, and then we have this card here with the pyramid, the triangle thing, and I keep seeing this iceberg, when you're out sailing, like the Titanic, and they saw that, they didn't see it because you see a teeny tiny part at the top, but we know that below the surface, the whole iceberg goes deep, 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 deep. And I keep seeing this image when you're talking because your desire, your thirst for knowledge, to go deeper, 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 to know more, to like, walk through the veil, is so inspiring. Like I'm sitting here like, like I feel drawn in just as you're talking, like this whole sort of almost similar to how not comparing you to a child in terms of, innocence, but that thing of like craving knowledge, but not knowledge in terms of what one book or one system, but like the understanding of many multifaceted layers to our identity, to being alive as a human being. And that's ridiculously inspiring to hear. So, okay. I'm going to get myself together here and decide. So basically, 29 years old, you're starting your whole fully stepping in. 7-year cycle after that of studying 3 different courses in depth. And again, for those listeners out there, if you're not into astrology or homeopathy or everything else that Francesca has been and is still studying, these are deep, 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 super rich subjects. They're not something that you just skim across the surface and then you can kind of like do a bit of a personality breakdown for friends and family. These are really in-depth studies. So the fact that not only did you have a desire and a capacity to do it, but that you continue to weave them all together is absolutely wonderful, and so much of what the world needs right now. But a little more about you, if it's okay. So we're going into like, let's take you into like your 30, let's say in the year when you were 34, what took place in your year? What happened in your life then?
Wait, so I'm 40, 6 years ago, 2019. That's when Jupiter was in Sag.
Woo!
So, and Jupiter actually stationed 14 degrees Sag on my sun for 6 weeks. So I was in the press like every Thursday. So mental. I've never had a PR. I never tried. It all just landed. And so 2018 was when I really went all in. Well, because I qualified June 2017, and then I just had my business strategy, very Capricorn way of being like, I'm not going to Mind Body Spirit festivals.
Yeah.
I'm to speak at Soho House and what was that place in Kensington? It's gone now. Belgravia, and the private members clubs and the festivals. So the yoga people who go to yoga in London, who would never be seen dead with like a crystal around their neck, they were my people. So I was just focused on taking astrology to a new audience, and also like the beauty of the fact that it became a trend. Selfridge's window, Christmas 2016, was Zodiac. So every brand in the world wanted astrology in 2019. Everybody. I worked with Bumble. I worked with Monica Vinader. I worked with Oliver Bonas. I just used to DM people on Instagram and be like, hey, do you want to do something? And they'd all be like, oh yeah, great. We've got a press day. Do you want to come in and like do influencer stuff? It was crazy. But that was when Jupiter was in Sag. So you and I are both Sag. I don't know if I told you that. I don't know if you know that. And so yeah, that's how it all just snowballed. Great. It's good.
Okay, absolutely
Exhausted. I have to say, I was shattered. I was shattered from going I just worked so bloody hard, and so the pandemic that summer when I didn't have to go anywhere, I was quite relieved because I was going to end myself because I was saying yes to everything.
100%, 100%. And I actually, that takes me into my next question, which is throughout your life, because you keep like, obviously you come across so passionate about your thirst for knowledge. And for me, there's a huge difference between knowledge and wisdom. And for me, it's wisdom. You want wisdom, not just because knowledge is also kind of just data, like, information, like, but wisdom, there's a huge difference between the two. So your thirst for wisdom really shines through, which is incredible. But apart from that, what has been the driver? What's been the driving force for you?
Relationships.
Woo! Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, talk to me.
Well, my relationships never worked. And it was just like, why? What is this? It was, and that's not right to say. Like my friendships were good, everything. And I have good relationships with my ex-boyfriends even. So it's not that I'm but my romantic relationships just didn't last. I didn't get, like, what was it? I didn't understand, and I wanted to understand myself, I think. But really, when I was in deep 2015, 2016, like I said, my friends are getting married and having babies. My core driver back then was what needs to be understood and remedied for me to be able to meet someone. I think
100%.
back then that was the driver, I would say.
I love that. And I mean, it's in the end of the day, and again, you also study theology. And I mean, in any philosophy, it's always the same. It doesn't matter what religion, what belief system, like it's always that thing, like we have to be willing to open the eyes inside of ourselves, right? Get curious about, what's going on in here, And so, and that's also my own journey. Like ever since I was a kid, it wasn't just like, oh, why is the world the way it is? It was always like, why am I the way I am? Like, so that really resonates with me, and also with the whole relationship stuff, 100%. And so, because obviously, and actually it's been, you know what, we might as well just have the podcast about you and me. So basically it was the same thing for me. Like I've always, like, career-wise, success-wise, all of that, it's always, there's no separation. It's everything that I do is what I love to do. And I would do it whether or not anyone would listen, anyone would read my books, anyone would come to my sessions. I'm absolutely in love, passionately in love with all of that. And then yet, the romantic relationships in my life, and similar to you, I've always, I'm still friends with, apart from one, I'm friends with all of my ex-boyfriends. Not, they can almost have a little dance. We have the anniversary celebration of Josie's relationships. But it's always been that same thing where it was like, okay, so... And so I'll relate it to astrology. So I think it's 6 houses in Sagittarius, and I've always just been, am I just too free loving? Is it just not possible for me? And without getting your brain too much into that, I just wanted to share that that's definitely been a big driving force in my life as well.
Yeah, I mean, your moon Cancer or Leo?
My moon, my sun, and my rising are all in Sagittarius.
Your moon is Sag.
12 of the 12, 1985. I'm born at 7:16 in the morning.
No, sorry. I have a friend born 2 days older than you.
Yeah.
And his moon in Scorpio. Yeah. He's Cancer, not in Cancer. Okay, so you're a new moon in Sag. Yeah, but conjunct Uranus.
Yeah.
We're both Sun Uranus. We're both weirdos ahead of our time, who are incredibly freedom loving.
I know. In fact, I even told my fiance this. I told my fiance this. I was like, do you realize that every day, and I was like, this is no reflection on you, this is all on me. Every day I have to remind myself that I am completely free to do whatever I want, anytime, any place, because then I can still be with you. If I keep sort of putting myself into a box and be like, oh, Josie, you are now engaged, you must then I'm like, I'm immediately running to the next adventure, galloping.
Yeah, you have to feel free, or yeah. If he was any way controlling, you wouldn't be there.
Oh no, 100%. Been there, done that when I was 16.
And he must be Uranian. I was at actually a talk at an astrology conference a couple of weeks ago, and somebody asked the question: if you're a Uranian, which is what we are, Sun Uranus, is there a solution? And she said, yeah, you need to find another Uranian. So you need a basically.
Well, is he? Because he's born in 85 as well. Does that make him uranium as well? 8 of March. He's Pisces.
He's also the King of Spades, like you. So you both have. Okay, so the playing card thing, you've got nice stuff, and but he's Saturn to you. Actually, he is your Saturn card. Like I already said, you have the King of Spades and Saturn, and that birthday is 2 of Spades, King of Spades. But do you know how his moon is?
He is Libra moon.
Libra moon.
Pretty sure it's Libra moon. He's born at around 8 o'clock in the evening on the 8th of March, 85. Yeah.
But either way, oh no, I have an ex-boyfriend with that birthday.
Okay, you and I are getting more and more similar by the minute.
A lot of Aries.
Yeah, and that's what he has. He has so much Aries. So I thought he was Aries when we first met.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going out with my ex-boyfriend, are you?
His name is Carl. No, I don't think I'm going out with your ex.
Imagine. So funny.
I love the direction of our podcast today.
He was the one. He was a big part of my promotion because he basically said to me, "You're too intelligent to be an astrologer," and it was like he thought he could like rationalize astrology out of me. I went out with him in 2015, and then I was like, "Nah, mate." And then that for me was like all I've ever wanted was a relationship, and on every other level we got on, and I chose astrology over that, and it was a very, in a way, healing, liberating thing because I was like, if people criticize me for loving my thing, who gives a fuck? I've got rid of, it was kind of magical, actually.
Well, 100%, because anything in life, anything can be an initiation, right? Anything can be an invitation. It just depends on how we choose to use that wisdom coming through. So I completely.
I think that's your fiance, Sag rising.
Sorry, darling?
He's Sag rising. Is he Sagittarius rising or
Oh,
your?
that I don't know. Yeah, maybe he is.
Either way, yeah, he's there's a freedom loving thing there. Fire, there's a lot of fire.
Yeah. That's for sure. But back to you. Thank you. But back to you. So, okay, so a big driver in this whole experience of your life leading up until this moment in time, sitting down with me today, has been understanding yourself, wanting to understand yourself better. And astrology mixed with all the other things have given you that?
Yes.
Absolutely love it.
Actually, too much.
Tell us why.
Well, because, and I thought, what happened? Something happened today. Oh, yeah, my mum. Oh, yesterday. I was like, you're okay. She's, I'm fine. Stop it, I'm fine. And I was like, I know she's lying, So then I was, and in the end, she was like, oh, well, actually, but anyway, it's just nothing. But I always know how everybody feels. And do you know about astrocartography?
Yes, I do.
I'll explain it very briefly. So at any given point, on any given day, the sun is rising somewhere, the moon is rising somewhere, that Mars is rising somewhere, and you can travel to those places in the world where a planet was either rising or setting or culminating or what I always forget the bottom word, but like disappearing at the bottom. And I was at a wedding on my moonrise line, and I didn't check my astrocartography before I went because I was going to the wedding. It wasn't a choice. It was like, I'm going to the wedding. But when I was there, I could feel how everybody was feeling. And it was fine at the wedding. It was the day after. And I rang my friend saying I found it really overwhelming because I could see who was feeling sensitive, and I could feel what everybody was feeling. And I found it overwhelming. But then when I read about what it means to be when I discovered I was on my moonrise line, I was like, oh, okay, this is a great place to go and give readings. This is a great place for me professionally, but I have to bring an awareness to it. And it says, like, to remedy that, you just need to look after your own moon stuff, your own body. And so yeah, this awareness, of course, I read people for a living. I've trained myself in nuance, in, oh, the doors are opening. What does that mean? I've trained myself in symbolism and sensitivity, and I've cultivated my sensitivity, and I don't drink and I don't take drugs, and I like all the things that you probably do. When you get more sensitive, it's a self-perpetuating cycle because you get more sensitive, so you have to look after yourself more. You look after yourself more, you get more sensitive, and I live this very highly attuned lifestyle so that when I go to a wedding and everyone's boozing and pretending they're okay, I'm like
100%. 100%. I resonate so much. And I actually, so funnily enough, this whole astrocartography thing, I only found out and got into it like a year ago or something. And I'm nowhere near your level, right? This is just me dipping my foot in a little bit because what happened.
Yeah.
Because what happened to me was, so Carl is from California, and we were going over, they have like a family house in Sedona, and all, him and his friends were like, Josie, you're gonna love Sedona, da-di-da-di-da. And what was really interesting is, again, because I'm, yes, not just about dedicating my life to this, but it's just who I am. Like, my body did not want to go. Like, even up until the day before we were leaving, my whole body was like, I don't want to go. And anyway, we jumped on the flight. We get there, we go to Phoenix first, then we fly up to Sedona. Now, what you have to know is that during that trip, which was about 2 weeks or something, I'm never sick. I started getting sick. Then I was nonstop bleeding. Like, sorry if anyone is sensitive here. Like, I've never had a nosebleed in my life. My nose started bleeding. I burned myself. I had a cut. I was on my period. My whole body I literally was like, what is going on with me, right? And then I actually, on the last day, I kind of sort of like, I bumped into someone and it turned out she was a healer and I was like, can I have a session? And I had a session with her and I was telling her about this whole like, blood thing and all of that. And I was like, I don't think it's that I'm falling apart. I think I'm actually detoxifying and my whole system is doing an upgrade. But being in these two places is activating something very deep within me that obviously needs to rise to the surface. So it wasn't that it was a bad thing as such. But then when I got home and again, I just kind of came across this astrocartography thing and I was like, let me have a look. And that was my moon line. And so I was like, and they're literally right almost below each other, Phoenix, right up to Sedona. Like you're dead on the line. You're not even like off the line a little bit. So I can really resonate with that and with you. And when the family was like, oh, didn't you love Sedona? And I was like, yeah, I did. But absolutely, like for me to actually spend more time there, now that I know, I would have to look after myself a lot more. I wouldn't be traveling with 5 different friends and making, kind of looking after everyone else's energy. So I can really resonate with that whole thing of making sure that you are grounded.
Maybe what degree is your moon an earlier? Anyway, I'd have to look at that because you have sun rising and everything in Sag.
Yeah. But enough about me. Let's go back to you because it's you. It's you I'm interested in. So gorgeous, Francesca. Okay, so you were saying around when you were age 34, all of a sudden it was your Jupiter year and all these doors opened up and you were kind of everywhere and you were saying yes to everything and then it was too much. Now, what happened sort of for you personally after that? When did you decide to move back to Nottingham?
August last year.
Okay, wow. And would you mind sharing what prompted you to do that?
Well, I'm not strictly here.
Okay.
I've left London and I'm a digital nomad.
Woo! Okay, finally fully free.
Yeah. But I got back from Ibiza yesterday and I'm leaving tomorrow. So it's just like my base is here. But what was the question?
My question, this is a good question. I'm also like, what was my question? So after 34, you had that amazing Jupiter year. You were saying yes to everything. Then all of a sudden,
it got too much. Back to Portugal because I had this like Portuguese boyfriend in London. He went home October 2019.
Yeah.
August. That was shit, but because I have Sag in the 7th, they're always foreign. So there's always this long distance thing, which obviously you have as well, but not. But you've marrying a foreigner. And classic Sag behavior. But you live abroad anyway, which is also classic Sag behavior. And so then, yeah. What's the question?
Good question. Let's miss it because I forgot. I think I was asking you what you were doing after when you were 34, after your Jupiter year. All of a sudden, you obviously needed to ground, I'm assuming, after that year of saying yes to everything. Did you finally start saying no to certain things, or was that a natural evolution because what goes up must come down to a certain degree?
I think I was in a personal year 11 in my numerology.
Master number.
Yes. And so the November 2019 would have been a personal month 22. And it was pretty amazing. Again, like the opportunities, I was just going from it was really amazing, like glory days that I kind of took for granted. I didn't take for granted, but I got used to sort of just invited to a retreat, come to this brand thing, come to this lunch, please do this every day. That November was wild and I loved it. I was really happy. December, I don't remember, like my birthday, whatever. No, I was at school on my birthday. And I remember just the end of the 11ness, which is highly sensitive. And then I was in the 3 and I was like, yeah, I'm in a personal year 3, gonna live my best life. Great. Everything was great. I had a great time. Everything was great. And then I went off to Thailand on January the 1st, 2020, because, everything's going well. Let's live this freedom. And I went there for 9 days, came back, landed straight on the radio because all the astrologers were saying 2020 is going to be a shit year. So somebody was like, Francesca, come and tell us why it's going to be terrible. So I did. And then I was writing. I spent all day like January writing about, I don't feel like it's a bad year, but it's apparently a bad year. And then 2020 was great for business.
So basically, so the way that I see things, like we're always in relationship, right? You're in relationship with your passion. You're in relationship living your passion. And that's absolutely beautiful. But also the flip side of debt. So we're in relationship with our passion, as am I, right? And the flip side of debt, or the deeper side of debt, the side that cannot be without this, is there's always well, at least this is talking for me. There's definitely a sense of loneliness in that.
Yeah. Yes and no. Yes. And no. Because I ended up, when I went to Thailand, I met this girl who was from, oh God, Macedonia. And then she was into astrology and like made friends, and I went to yoga. And I think I was definitely more lonely in my 20s when I was like, who am I? What am I? Whereas I'm in a very deep relationship with myself, which isn't lonely.
And I love that. And that's what I was hoping you would say. So thank you so much for it. That's just beautiful. I'm so happy for you. Because this is exactly the thing, right? You know, we can be with all the people outside. We can have all the things that look amazing on paper, on Instagram or whatever. And then we can, but if we are not just out of alignment with our values and our heart, but if we are not even courageous enough to say hello inside, right? To not have, if we, you know, if we're always searching in the relationship of everyone else's eyes, and we never really dare to look inside ourselves and kind of go, hey, let's sit down and have a chat. Let me get to know you. Who are you today, right? Then we're always gonna feel lonely. So that's a really, really beautiful thing. And something else you touch on, which I love. So this whole like, you know, following your heart, following your gut, following that feeling of like, since you were 5 years old, you were like, hey, astrology is for me. And I just fucking love that you say that so much. It's just, oh, yes. I wish everyone was like at 5, like, this is for me. I loved it. I love the clarity, because this is another thing, like intuition. Intuition is not scary. Intuition is not like, go and do this thing, because like it's always this, at least for me, intuition actually is quite calm, even if it tells you to get the shit out of wherever, or like get, you know, like get your shit together, do this, do that. Like it's actually quite, there's a calmness to it. There's a deep knowing to it. It's not this, you know, whereas the inner critic, or whereas part of my brain that is just wanting to protect me can kind of be here and there and everywhere. But the intuition is just like, no, this is where you're at, this is what it's about, this is where you're going. And what you were just sharing, this thing of like the fact that you are now living, and perhaps have been for a long time, this nomadic lifestyle, really just following, the only thing you're following is what feels good to you. I loved it so much. And when we live in that space, and that's absolutely not for everyone, like just heads up listeners out there, if you are not just following your gut here, there and everywhere, and if you're not living a nomadic lifestyle as an astrologist or a healer or whatever, you are not failing at life. You are right on time, right on point, doing what you need to be doing. But back to you, I feel so much the same, that thing of like, life has a way of looking after us. So, you know, you said, hey, I was out there in Thailand, and all of a sudden, you know, I met someone else, this beautiful woman from Macedonia, and she's into the same thing that I'm into. Like when we are open to it, again, the door that's opening, when we are open to life, there's always an opportunity. There's always an opportunity for a connection with someone else that is into what you are into, or whatever it is, if we're open for it.
And if you go into alignment, like you pulled that card align, I'm a Sag. Sag is about travel, philosophy, beliefs, ideas, higher education. So of course I go around studying and traveling, because that's the truth of who I am. And so then it's going to fall into alignment. If you're a Virgo, it's not your truth, and unless you got, you know, Saturn moon or whatever.
100%. And actually, let's touch on this a little bit. Let's step into that. So for you, how does it feel for you? Because for me, it's always a physical experience. How does it feel for you if you are out of alignment?
Horrendous. For me to be out of alignment, I've ignored my intuition. And what you were saying about intuition earlier, again, it's not scary, because it's been there since I was 5. It's been there since I was 2. It's
Right.
been there my whole life. So me having these, when I was 13, I wrote in my diary, one day I'm going to know why I have premonitions, because I've always had premonitions. And again, it was just something like, my thing was like, I don't think people believe me. When I said I knew I was going to see so-and-so at the dentist, they'd be like, yeah. But I was like on fire with it. Like, I fucking knew this. And I always knew things. And it actually annoyed me. So again, this desire for knowledge is more like, I guess, wanting to be believed and understand these things about me that never made sense with any rational study, because I'm a queen of clubs. I'm intuitive. So I live in this world. And question?
You don't blog it.
Huh?
You don't block it. It's not a question, but I'm just saying you don't block it. Because, okay, my question was, how does it feel for you personally when you're out of alignment?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so because I always have a strong knowing, when I'm going against it, it's just sad. It's very sad, like and wrong and angry and yeah, just bad.
Absolutely, but this is actually super potent, I think, especially for listeners to hear this whole thing of like, so everything that we're feeling carries a message and it's a messenger. Your body is a messenger talking to you. So the anger, the sadness, the depression, the whatever you want to call it, the stuckness, these are good things because if we didn't get these things, you know, you might never have gone to the psychic or you might never have actually saying like, you know what, yes, you know what, you can read me, or actually I will just like kind of, you know, I'm doing this thing with my fingers, like randomly message this person from Sunday's time, right? Like, and thank God you did, you know, thank God for that.
In return, you know, Saturn corresponds with depression. Saturn transits are depressing by definition, but that's why I always say as well, Saturn is great because he is, especially for a Sagittarius Pollyanna who's always going to put a positive spin on everything. Sometimes you need to just be sat in the corner and be like, this isn't working. You need to change.
Okay, so that's 100% true. And I just want to share that. So this I do know for sure. My Pluto is in Scorpio. So there's something there, right? So that's the Scorpio is also quite an in-depth sign, not a sign that's just like, hey, yay, let's look at the positive from this one. It's also like, let's look at the truth, like what's actually true here, right? So yeah, I definitely resonate with that. Okay, Francesca, I wanna remind you because I don't know if you remember the whole reason that you kind of came into my life is that you picked me out. So a few years ago, remember we went to a yoga class?
I met you in the sauna.
Oh my God, did you meet me in the sauna? I'm laughing so hard because I've met so many people in the sauna. So I'm like, no way.
I've met so many people. Met so many people in the sauna. I should never feel bad about going to lie in the sauna because it's always networking, baby. No, but I was in the sauna and they were all talking about you. So I was there having a nice time, relaxing in peace. And then your yoga class finished and all these people came in and they were all like buzzing with energy and being like, oh my God, that was so good. It was so good. She's doing a retreat in Slovenia. Are you going to go? I think I might go. And I was like, these motherfuckers are going to shut up. And then you came in and they're like, oh, wow. Anyway, I'm just silently like watching and listening. And then about a week later, you walk into yoga and you put your mat down next to me and like smile at me. And I'm like, huh, that girl from the sauna. So, and then I was like, hi.
Oh my God, that's how it came together. Okay, so totally blanked out on the sauna experience. So I loved it. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna take you back. You're the one who like picked me out, and you're like, hey, no, no, no. It goes even further back. Oh my God. And then there's probably all the other times where our paths have crossed and we didn't even realize, which is wonderful. No way. So this is how this whole thing came about.
Yeah. And obviously, because you weren't that early to class like me, it was probably only like a minute, 60 seconds before class. So you know, you came down, it was flow and restore or something, wasn't it? And so we didn't have a lot of chatting time.
No, no, no. I mean, literally, all I remember is, I mean, I was totally in my own zone, just going like, let's release the day into some yin. And then there's this gorgeous woman next to me who's like, hey, you're Josephine. And I was like, that is true.
You know why? Because when I came out of yoga, out of the sauna, I went to the guy on reception and was like, what class did they just have? And they were like, oh, it must have been yoga, aromatherapy yoga. And I was like, who was the teacher? And he said, oh, Josephine. I was like, oh, interesting. Because I had to ask because they were really going crazy. They were like, oh my God, it's okay.
Well, anyway, I love how we met, and I love that you know even more about how we met than I obviously was aware of, and that's just another thing of like, you know how in life we get so wrapped up in our own story, and then there's so many other stories going on that we don't even are aware of, and I absolutely loved it. Because of time, I want to wrap it up to go into the point where I'm going to ask you the question that I always ask everyone. So, Francesca, with the incredible amount of wisdom, I mean, your 7 years of in-depth, 3 different subject studies, your continued studies, your continued thirst for constantly understanding yourself and life itself deeper. If there was just 1 or 2 soul messages for humanity, what would it be?
I think everybody, particularly at the minute with Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, people need to have more self-confidence, self-belief. I think that my big vision for everybody at the minute, what I would love, part of the astrology, you know, if I look at the astrology and think, what is the highest potential of this Pluto and Aquarius sextile, Saturn, Neptune, blah, 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 is I just want people to believe in themselves, because I think people are sold to too much. We're medicated too much. There is too much like shrinking, too much shrinking that happens and that comes at us from every single angle. And it may, if people were more empowered, if more people realized they had a voice, even with political situations, without making this political, the political situation we are in now is because people, oh, everybody behaves like they are voiceless. And there isn't an uprising. We need power to the people. We need to every single person to know that their unique way of being is strong, and to not need so much approval. Now that doesn't mean go and be a weirdo. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not endorsing all sorts of perverse and strange behaviors. That's not what I'm saying. But there is something, and I just think people don't quite back themselves enough.
100%. I love that so much. And also this thing of like you were saying, like empowering people to really fully stand forward and speak up with their unique voice. And that is what the world needs. Like, whoever you're out there listening to this, like, you are needed, you know, like your voice, your message, whatever it is you uniquely came here to this planet to share, to be, to have, whatever is needed. Like,
And
that thing of,
just your small decisions, like not everybody's a fire sign like us, like Gobby, you know, like it's also about being just saying, quietly saying no to things, or quietly making choices, or the way we respond to, and also the collective energetics as well. I think, you know, we are Carl Jung, sort of, we're in a cosmic soup, and everybody's repressed anger is kind of leaking out into the cosmos and forming a big bloody anger ball, and it's always going to be there. But I think we could, if more people dealt with us, took themselves seriously, realized it wasn't just about you, it's about everything. Butterfly effect.
I love that, Francesca, the butterfly effect. Absolutely. So, Francesca, thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been an absolute delight. And as the card that I took for us before, all about alignment, it's coming together, and precision. So being true to who you are, standing in your power, speaking up, having a voice. Francesca, I could speak to you all day. I know I have to let you go. So on the most beautiful note, from my heart to yours, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And Francesca, obviously, send me an email when you have time, put your bio, everything, so people can find you, so even more people can follow their heart. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Grazia from Untitled